All right, guys, welcome to another exciting episode of How I Built This right here in Birmingham. And I'm, of course, Ron, CEO and founder of two different consumer brands here in the Birmingham area, Two Maids and a Mop. And as you can see behind me, it's hard to miss it, Pink Zebra Moving. Today, we have an awesome guest, someone that I've followed for a long time as an entrepreneur right here in Birmingham. He's a mentor to a lot of folks in the franchise industry because he's had such success, and it's a great brand name that you're all going to know and probably at some point have visited one of his stores. It's Keith Richards. Keith is the founder of Taziki's. And for anyone that's lived in Birmingham long enough, you know exactly what Taziki's is. Great food, great service, just an awesome experience. And so I can't wait to hear about this whole story. Today, Keith has more than 96 locations across the country. This started all the way back in 1998 after a trip to Greece with his wife, Amy. And so welcome, Keith, to How I Built This, Birmingham style.
Well, thank you.
You bet. So I love personal journeys and how people even become entrepreneurs. Everyone watching this podcast is either just starting out their business or maybe, thinking about, should I start a business? There's so many questions, so many, concerns they may have, and for all the risks that come with starting a business. For an entrepreneur like yourself that has been there, done that, take people back to those early days and talk to us about what led you to the idea of starting your own restaurant.
Well, so early days, I tell people my first job really got engaged in the kitchen, the people aspect was, and you may remember this, I'm not sure your age, but Kmart used to have a cafeteria.
Yeah.
And so I started in the cafeteria in Midfield, which is, right outside of Birmingham. I actually lived in Birmingham, and really frying chicken, cutting tomatoes with some ladies. And I love just the interaction that they had. And it kind of brought me, I was semi-reclusive as a child, but they just kind of brought this Keith person out and kind of felt the entrepreneur started building there. They let me do things, let me, take ownership of items. And I thought, this is kind of fun. So through my school, I tried to become not quite a leader, but one that could, my goal was to always be successful. And while I was born and raised, my father was, my mom was a homemaker. And my dad started with South Central Bell, all the way to Bell South, climbing telephone poles. And so he raised me and my two siblings, my brother and my sister. And so, but it was a couple of things I'll build to this is that, how he worked, how he managed us, how he took us to church, how he prayed with us, and watching through my young eyes, watching this man, and I will get emotional, watching this man work constantly to support us. So mom didn't have to work. I thought one day I'm going to do that. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to continue to work hard. But the entrepreneurial part came, I was working for some gentlemen and I'm like, I could do a better job by myself if I could just do this myself. So I started a detail company, detailing cars, because I love, number one, I was and got to know a lot of people in Birmingham and started to do their nice cars and love that. So the entrepreneurial spirit began then. And, I want to be my own boss. That led up to the tax man going, hey, you're making all this money, you got to pay taxes. So I was like, oh crap, I don't want to pay taxes. So let me go find a real job. So anyway, so I stayed into the restaurant business and, I was telling somebody the other day, I've had one stint. Don't talk to me about working hard. My first waiting job was at Olive Garden. I was detailing cars and I was working at Bottega. I was 7 days a week. I was
Oh
working.
my gosh.
But, I had bills to pay. Failure was not an option. I had to get to that marquee point of, I want to be like my dad. I want to be hardworking. I want to support. I want to have some things. But the true spirit came out when I was at Bottega with Frank and just saw his, and really, I talked to Frank a while back about this, is it just the passion, you to do something, you got to be passionate, whether it's, Pink Zebra or whether it's Taziki, you got to be really passionate about, because that's where the brand is going to follow you. And if you're passionate about the brand or the product, then it's easy to sell. Right. So
absolutely.
So that was easy for me to fall in the the Bottega way, because Frank was very passionate about the food that he served. And we talk about it. We just talked about this a couple weeks ago, is that while that piece of asparagus, you and I may think that's asparagus, but he's putting it on a plate and he's grilling it different. And to me, it's still asparagus. But realizing where did that asparagus come from? What farmer grew that? How did it? So it's a trickle effect of how this affected this, and then this, and then this. So it's more of a, I guess, not a reverse snowball, but it's you're going deeper inside of the purpose, right? So loving his passion. So back in 1997, Amy was working for U.S. Airways and said, "Hey, let's go to Greece." Okay, let's go to Greece.
Of course, why not?
and back then, all I had to do is wear a tie and a jacket, and I could fly anywhere for free. So we flew to Greece. I think we had to buy tickets like $100, but anyway. So I came back and I said, Amy, we went to all the mom and pop little diners and cafes, and I just fell in love with the culture. And there's one thing I tell people when I got home, I went to my dad and I punched him in the stomach. And he's like, Dad, son, what is that for? I was like, because you should have been Greek. I wish we were Greek, because just even though we created a great culture in our family, but just being there and being accepted in a Greek community, to me, it was like, this is beautiful. Even though there was a language barrier in one restaurant that we went to, it was the fact that we were eating together, that we were drinking some wine together. And I saw their passion for taking care of me. And I did the same thing at Bottega. So when we got back, I said, and there were some opportunities out there for me to go into if I wanted to. And I said, I want to open my own cafe. I want to do the same thing what we saw in Greece. And she goes, that's awesome, but we don't have the money. And I said, we're going to find the money. So honestly, what we did is, of all the bankers and the lawyers and the everybody that came in contact with Bottega, I would go to them and say, hey, you got $50,000. I need to borrow 50 grand. To these guys, it wasn't, they'd sign that was their meal at Bottega. But they all said, no, banks don't, bank presidents, no, we don't lend money to restaurants. And I'm like, gosh, how am I gonna fight this? How am I gonna win? So I went to our banker and I said, listen, we got a little house in Homewood, and could we borrow $50,000 against our house? And so he said yes. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So my budget, guess what? $50,000. I had to make it work. So when we did this, and pardon me, because I tell stories, but I jumped back and forth.
I love it.
Yep. So when we did this, we we had the check for $50,000, and instead of I had to go to auctions. I went to restaurant auctions, and sometimes my dad said, I think you're outbidding yourself. But I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I was bidding on this stuff. We load it in the truck, take it home, clean it, wash it, whatever. So with the $50,000, we were pulling white wallpaper off. I had friends coming over, my dad, my mom, my sister, my brother. Everybody was helping build this little concept. And so we did, and we did it right under $50,000. And so I think there's a question in here. You say, how do you know if you becoming successful? And I think it's really two ways. Is that, yes, you're successful when money comes in, but the sense of being successful personally to me was like, I did this, and there's emotion in there. It's like, I had a goal, I set the goal. Now, and I told my accountant, who was a good friend of mine, he was, Keith, whatever you do, don't let Amy quit her job at US Air. Please, you got insurance, you got benefits, you got 401k, and whatever you do, please. And my thing was I was thinking, all I got to do is make $1,000 more than what I was making at Bottega. And guess what? I own my own business. So nervously, we, had a couple of friends and family meals, and we were, settled right there in the Colonnade, and we were nervous. And the first day we opened on a Saturday, and I did 78 people. And I tallied that up, and I was like, okay, that's, $780. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty good for day one. Now let's take off, and people are, and I guess where you become successful is people tell you, this is great. This is good. We love your product. This is awesome. We're excited. So built that up. The next week we got an article written in when the Birmingham News used to have the city scene. You remember the old city scene in Birmingham? Yeah. So we were written up in city scene, and I think we got 4 out of 5 stars, which typically, that doesn't happen for a small little cafe.
Right.
But we were serving, and honestly, we've changed a little bit, but we're still serving fresh lamb, and we were doing all this on styrofoam plates. And people were like, they can't get 4, these outsiders, you can't get 4 stars and you're serving on styrofoam. At the end of the day, it's about the experience and about the food. So the next week, we got so daggone busy is that I was running out of food. I literally ran out of food. And I called Amy's mom, who was the closest, person to us. I'm like, you got to get lettuce, you got to get tomatoes. I need food. I'm running out of food. And I called Amy at US Airs, and she was working. And I said, the ship has gone down. I'm just giving people hummus with tortillas, and I don't know what else to do. That's all I got. So she ran, and she said, I'm on my way. So she came in. First thing she did, which is against the fire code, she locked the front door. People are inside, people outside. She locked the front door, and nobody's getting in, nobody's leaving until we fix this. So what she did, Ron, is she handed out, there were 50 people inside. She handed out 50 menus, and I signed them, and it was a free meal from Taziki's. And do you know we got 49 of those back?
You were kidding. What a great idea.
So we knew at that time. I said, borrow the doors, Kay. Something's happening here. I think we've got something. So, and then I called my accountant, and I said, Amy's quitting her job. No, she can't. And I said, I can't do this alone. And so that was the day when she resigned and came to me. It was the relief. And a lot of people, how do you work with your wife, or husband? How does that happen? And she knew her role. I knew my role, and we made it work. That was to us really, really kind of cool.
So there was some relief there, because it sounds like you guys are and were a great team, but there had to be some fear, because now you don't have income coming in unless you make it inside the restaurant. What did you ever think about that risk, or did you just go head first?
So here's the first time we sat at the bar at Taziki, we call it T1, and I said, Amy, if this doesn't work, which I don't like to think that, but if this doesn't work, I can always go back to Bottega and bartend 3 nights a week and keep this going, and we'll just figure it out. Worst case scenario, we sell our house, we give the bank, the bank takes it. We live in an apartment, and I had told her before we were married, I said, I could live with you under a viaduct. And I was praying that would never come true. And it didn't, but there were the fear of, and listen, I did not go to, I went a couple years at college at Jeff State, which I love and still support Jeff State. But I didn't take business classes. I didn't, I was an artist, and I played tennis. And so I wasn't thinking about a P&L or a, food cost, labor cost. And I'm just thinking, hey, we can open, I got people, we're going to make money. We got to make money. Right. So that was if, we talk about what, if I could go back, and there's times that I go, yeah, I wish I could go back to school and do it. Now I'm too old to do it, but really I'm not, but I don't have time. The things that I probably would have done a little bit different. But we knew we had something. And so so the question is, how do you build on that?
Right.
You got one location, and everybody's telling you, oh, that we love it. Not everybody, but a lot of people, this is not true Greek. This is not this. It's not this. But most of the people enjoyed it. So
you're up and going. You got the one store. Yep. Amy comes on board. You can breathe a little bit, because now you're not just doing all this by yourself. I can relate to that. That working on an island thing it's not just scary. It's just almost impossible, And so that's one of the reasons I fell in love with franchising, because it creates a support mechanism for a small business owner. But you get past the first store, you have success there. When did you start thinking about scaling the brand? Was that something you thought about from day one?
It wasn't. We just wanted to pay the bills and pay off Ron Maxwell, my hood that I bought the hood from. We just wanted to pay these guys off. And so that was our goal, is just, again, let's make money, let's make a little bit more than what I was making at Bottega. But it got to the part of, wow, now we're paying Amy's salary, what she was making, and my salary. And it's like, wow, this is great. But it was, I mean, I would go to work at 6. At that time we closed at 6, but I would have to come home. And of course the health department, they can't shut me down now, but I would bring produce and stuff home, literally sit on I had a TV tray. Everybody knows what a TV tray is, a TV tray. And I had a cutting board, and I would cut my vegetables, and I'd watch Seinfeld. So I would literally watch the news while I'm prepping.
Yeah.
I would put lamb in the oven, set the timer for 2:00 in the morning. We would get up. Number one, you get the whole house smell like daggum lamb every day, which is good, but you get tired of it.
I bet you do.
Get up at 2, pull it out, get it cooled, and just over and over and over and over. And that's where I thought, well, okay, I'm going to need some help. This is way overbearing. I just, it's too much pressure.
Right.
So the fact of growing to the second one was really, okay, now I got good employees and I'm getting more good employees. What's the opportunity for those guys? I mean, everybody likes working for Keith and Taziki's, but there's got to be an opportunity, or you're going to lose these good people to somebody else. So I was approached by Ann and Ken Sanders, who own the building at we call T2 at Mount Brook Plaza. And they said, we love Taziki's. We want you to be our first tenant. And they told us what we're doing. So we did. We took the gamble, and that was in '02. Yep, that was in '02. So we kind of had 4 years under our belt of running the restaurant and getting processes to a degree in place, hiring the right people, and then organically saying, okay, what can we do? This guy's a great GM. This guy's a good shift lead. How do we promote them? Well, you can't do it with one store. All you're doing is just cycling out people. So when we opened T2, we did that. We gave others opportunity. And so we grew it from there. And fortunately, at that time, Amy became pregnant with our first set of twins. So I'm like, okay, well, now I've got 2 restaurants and 2 kids coming. I'm going to retire in 18 years. That's my goal.
Yeah.
They're going to take it over when they're 18 and I'm out. But that did not happen. Still hasn't happened. But so we did that, and we ended up the Mount Brook people accepted us. Birmingham people were coming in. It was just, it was a great thing, and very fortunate.
And are these are both I know the first store had a great start. Did the second store have an equally fast start?
It had a beautiful fast start. I mean, we were kicking it, and it was surprising. Busy. We got so busy. Right when we opened, I had asked Miss Sanders, can I extend my restaurant a little bit more because I feel like I'm too small? And she said, yes, but you got to do it. Can you do it overnight? Yes, I can do it overnight. So, well, we did it overnight. And so we call T2. That was very, very nice, very successful, working hard. But again, I'm starting to build a team. Here's where the challenge comes in. I won't mention names, but our landlord at Lee Branch loved the brand. Came in and said, I'd love to have a Taziki's out here in Greystone. And I thought, well, okay, now I'm starting to think. Now I'm hitting. So in Birmingham we got these barriers. So you got the barriers from 459 is a barrier. The Cahaba Road's a barrier. So. Well, I thought, well, crap, I've got one centered right there in the Colonnade. My Mount Brook store is taking care of Birmingham, Homewood, Mount Brook. Those people really don't like to cross the summit. So my next pocket makes sense. Let's go all the way out to Greystone because they're not driving. It's too far for them to drive to Taziki. They were, but let's make it more convenient.
Make it easier, yeah.
Well, at that same time, let's open we call it T3. That's where I'm at now, T3. Amy becomes pregnant again with another set of twins.
Something's in your water.
So I cannot continue to open restaurants because I would have too many kids. I already have 2 that I can't afford. Now I'm going to have 4 children. That restaurant, not only, it wasn't a challenge because of that. That was another beautiful thing. And now I have, 2 18-year-olds and 2 16-year-olds. But it did not kill it like we thought it would. It was struggling, and and it brought my attention to, holy crap, this is not good. Now I'm playing, Peter's paying Paul, Paul's paying Mary, Mary's playing everybody. What is going on here? This is not how T1 worked. This is not how T2 worked. What do I have to do? And so that, the numbers, we were just not making money. And so, I mean, that's when your heart, it's like, I mean, the feeling of being pulled over is like, oh my gosh, what did I do? What can I do? How do I get out of this? What in the world's going on with me? What I thought we had something, but reality hit me in the face and it said, slow down. You got to build this brand, and you got to take care of the Chelsea, the Greystone, the Shoal Creeks, the people in Meadowbrook. You got to really take care of these people. It's a different breed. They're different people. They all eat, but we got to figure out, what do we got to do to get them in? And somebody told me, he said, I can't find that restaurant with a seeing eye dog and a map. So I thought, well, that's maybe one problem is marketing. And so, because I'm the founder, I'm the marketer, my dad, honestly, the first year of our business, he'd retired. He was our catering driver. He was doing my deliveries until he got late a couple of orders and I fired him. But but the challenge was, how do I build the sales to match Mountain Brook or Colonnade? And I had to give basically Colonnade and Mountain Brook to my managers. I had to stay here, and I lived here.
I love it.
Every single day. I had to make sure that every, we call it Friday pasta here, but signature pasta is perfect, has the right enough feta and basil. I got to make sure that the portobello sandwich is done perfect. I got to make sure that guest is taken care of. I got to make sure that Keith has got to be present. And and then you started seeing the sales increase. The word started getting around. It started, then finally it started breaking even and then generating money. And it's like, now it's time I can, and then bring in the right management team. Who's actually still with me today. And just, that was a tough one. That was a real life experience. And knowing that I had debt, I ended up, crazy. I ended up firing my contractor, and me and my dad finished the build out.
That's what I love about entrepreneurship. What you just talked about was scary. I mean, there were so many scaries in there, from being a first-time father to, being father of 4 while building a business from the ground up, trying to figure out how to be not just a great chef, but a great business owner. You had to go through that transition. And then obviously you got 2 great stores, probably life's getting a little bit easier for you. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're right back in the weeds of the business, but nobody's telling you to do these things. Nobody's forcing you to do these things. The spirit of entrepreneurialism is what's pushing you, and so
right.
That's what's, for anyone watching this, anyone listening to this, wondering, do I have it? What Keith just said is, would you do that? Do you need someone to push you? Do you need someone to force you to do those things that Keith just talked about? Entrepreneurs don't. The market forces them to do those things, And so in Keith's case, it was quality, experience. Some of those things, maybe marketing needed to be improved. He got his hands dirty, and that's the thing that most people don't think about. I talk about this all the time. Shark Tank has glamorized the idea of entrepreneurship, and it looks like all you do is stand in front of a billionaire, talk for 15 minutes, get millions of dollars, become rich and famous, buy a boat, and you're good. I don't even know if that's the start. That may be more Hollywood than anything. The real meat of the business occurs in all those days when nobody's watching. Nobody watched you come in at 6 a.m. You doing all those things yourself. So that's such a great story. And it kind of relates to even what I went through at Two Maids and a Mop. We're now building at Pink Zebra. The first 6 locations we opened, they're all in the Southeast, but I moved to those locations. I lived in those markets. Mm-hmm. And the folks that we hired to work in those markets didn't know that we were trying to build this national brand. They just were focused on Fort Walton Beach, Florida, or Birmingham, Alabama, or Nashville, Tennessee. They didn't know or probably didn't care about this big dream that I had in the back of my mind. But I felt like I needed to leave a DNA and a culture there instead of just hiring it away. So it's good to hear that I'm not the only lunatic that kept his hands in the pie for a long time.
You said the good word, and some of these things that you don't realize until later, because my head's down. I'm thinking of our guests, I'm thinking of our employees, and I didn't even know that what kind of wake am I leaving was, I was building a culture and I was building a brand without even, all I wanted to do is make sure I had money to, if I wanted to buy a dirt bike, I could, without Amy screaming at me, or if I want to go buy a new pair of shoes without her screaming at me, we could, or whatever it was. I didn't really understand that what I was building behind me, and that was a culture. And I think, and now, with the 96 stores, and then I don't know how much time we can talk about, then how does 3 turn into 93? And I think, and for my case, it was, I'd already had the sales, already had the business plan was, I wrote it on a daggum piece of paper, and I gave it to Jeff, who was our first agent at Culinary. And I said, I don't have $1 million in the bank to guarantee this space. All I can tell you is I'm going to do it, and I will work hard, and I'll make sure that my rent's paid. And and same thing with Miss Sanders. She said, Keith, you have $1 million liability that you need to pay him, and I said, I'm not worth $1 million. I never will be. I said, but I will guarantee you that I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna keep the doors open. I'm gonna make you proud, and I've got to succeed. Failing is not an option. So, she literally took her pen while in the attorney's office, and she just, with a red pen, said, "Don't, I trust Keith." And I'm telling you, I can text her right now. She'll text me back in 2 minutes. And it was kind of funny. I got an email from her the other day, and she says, "My lease is with you. It's not with Taziki. It's with you. And this is what I expect." And then I give her what she expects. Trust me, if the dumpster's dirty, I'm going to get a text. But
she's going to get a lot of calls later today for people wanting to rent from her.
well, now it's her daughter, but they're still loving, and they're still a great family. So the question is, how do we become bigger? And I got approached actually by some guys from Birmingham that knew the brand and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Listen, dude, I've got 4 kids." And at this time they were probably, they're only a year and a half, close to 2 years apart. I've got 4 kids. I'm always holding the baby somewhere. And I should tell people, I would come to work to rest, because if I'm at home and as soon as I walk in the door, Amy's like, "There, you take them out."
I can relate.
Oh my goodness. So at the end of the day, I was like, what does Keith want? We got the 3 stores, and I can open a 4th one. We're fine. So again, I got approached by some investment bankers, investment firm before, and I was like, nah. They didn't have the rest. I need somebody to help me grow from 3 to 50 or 3 to 30, and some groups just, they got the money's out there, but I need the expertise behind me. So when I found these partners, I'm like, wow, they've done this, but it changed my life. Not only is that, become partners, guess what? There's a portion of business you have to give up, right? So that was very hard. I had to pray about that one, because I'm like, wow, I'm giving up ownership of something I created. And am I going to be the sole one that says, we're going to do this, we're going to do this? And I had to, that was a tough time. I had to go to the Lord a lot on that one, because that was tough for me to give up, because I had sacrificed so much. And now I'm just going to give something to someone and trust that they're going to make the same heartfelt, loving decisions that I made, and what's best for the people. So we declined a couple of times because I just wasn't ready. And then I looked at Amy, I said, we need to really think about, the kids' future, our future. And we went for it, and we found, the partners to do it. And what they brought in for us was, well, I'd always tell people, before our recipe screens, I had 3 recipe people. I had Raul, Fernando, and Joaquin. And if something was wrong, I'd go to them. They were training my employees. Ty was training. Gene was training. All these people were training. So, I had the culture built, but we had no recipe book, but it was in my basement. We knew what we were doing. But then it was like, oh my gosh, processes, procedures, true recipes have to come in place. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that took a lot of time and energy. And at that time, when you start, I mean, heck, we were still in the NEC computer or cash registers. That's the way we were keeping tallies and doing inventory. But when the processes came in, things changed. People left because I found out that I had silent investors and didn't know it. So I learned a valuable lesson that people can steal from you and you don't even know it. And I learned that valuable lesson. But having them come in and kind of build it structurally where I had a good base, and there's a Bible verse that talks about build it on a solid foundation. I had to have that, and I had the foundation, but I needed to make sure that I had the right people supporting us and still let me make the decisions that I know what's best for the people and our guests. So that's what we did, and that's what we created. The brand kind of, I guess, started to elevate, and people saw the brand, and people would come in and taste the food. Yes, I'd love to have a franchise, and then next thing I know, I was like, oh my God, we're a franchise company. We have now. When I look at a room, and I go, wow, there's a lot of people that work for me, and I still create, I still create it, and I'm still creating, which we can talk about a little bit as well. But yeah, that's where we are, and of course, those things allow. I don't know if people know about the Hope. I'm a big giver. With the special needs community, we hire a lot of the special needs, and that was very kind of a happenstance coincidence. I don't know how much time you got. I can do 10 podcasts about the stories that I have, how I meet people. But and a part of giving back is something that we did in the beginning. Is the churches and community would come to us, say, we want. Here, put us on give us $200. We'll put you on a banner. And I'm like, well, why don't we feed the coaches? I would rather feed the coaches, and you can put my name on the banner, or let me feed your, your church group, or let me give you a discount on this, or why don't I cater for you? And so that's how we kind of started the giving of not just here's a check, because at that time I didn't have a check. I couldn't write anybody a check for $500. I didn't have that in my pocket. So I had to do a little barter with food. And that's the scrappy part.
It is. Yeah. The hustle.
That's being the scrappy part.
The hustleness of, I don't even know if that's a word, but the hustleness of an entrepreneur is hard to define. Everybody, either you got it or you don't, in my opinion. I think there's, opinion, there's probably something in your background, probably something in my background. There's a certain level of pain in our past that pushes us, and it allows us to be more self-starting, and that's really a sort of a critical thing that I think any aspiring or even current entrepreneur needs to ask themselves. Am I a self-starter? You better be, because
you have to be.
There's nobody's going to tell you what to do. It's so that's good and bad. Like you get to own the day, but the truth is the day owns you. So you've got to figure out what to do with it.
And it's like you were talking about, like on the Shark Tank, people, it's kind of funny because even during Taziki, I started inventing stuff around the house. My wife was laughing. We had funny story in Vestavia. We had a house and we had so many daggone pine trees. So I'm like, I'm breaking my back picking up all these stupid pine cones. So I created a pine cone picker upper. She'll tell you about it. So I'm like, I'm still, because I don't want to bend down. So I made, I don't want to tell you what I made it out of, but I made this crazy pine cone picker upper. And I had another one that was I was running one day and you see people at the beach running, and they like throw their little bottle of water in the bushes and come back and get it and drink it. I'm like, why don't we create something called running water? So I'm like, hey, little handheld, thermoses with ice cold water, and you run with them, and they're also weights, and I'll call it running water. Hey, kind of catchy. And but it's all been created.
Jogging in a jug from years ago, right?
Yeah, So, but I told Amy, I said, everything has been created now. So the scope is, everything's getting tighter. You know what I'm saying? So everything's been created. Dadgum, I got an iPad case. It's got its own case. It's been created. Or no little earbud thing. It's got its own case. So everything has been created. So I think the challenge today is what can you do? What can you find that it doesn't have to be new, but how can you make it better? And how do you sell it? And how do you, people love passion. I think you were going to ask the question, maybe I'm going too far. Is it, entrepreneurship in Birmingham is huge. I mean, if you look around, and it's not just the restaurant business. Well, we've got a lot of great chefs in town who decided, hey, I'm going to go out and, and open up my own restaurant or my own business. I mean, Birmingham is scrappy. I mean, and I'm proud. I mean, people of Birmingham, yeah. I mean, I'm proud to say that I'm from Birmingham because it's a scrappy and it's known to be scrappy. And we get, we fight for what we need. And it's a very accepting city. And, while yes, Taziki's works in Nashville, and Taziki works in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it works in Atlanta, and it works here, and it works there, and it works in Cincinnati. And that's a great thing, but nobody beats Birmingham's numbers. I will always, because we're here. This is where we're founded. This is our company. And I take a lot of pride in being from Birmingham.
It's a great place in so many different ways. You've done a lot to help this community, quite frankly, and the success that you built has not just allowed you to buy a boat; it's allowed you to employ people that hopefully have bought boats.
You don't have a boat? Did I tell you I had a boat?
No, I'm just messing around. Do you have a boat?
I have a fishing boat.
Okay, but the investors, the franchisees, all those folks are using the success of your hard work. That's creating more jobs, creating more investment around the community. Money's flowing because of the success of Taziki's. And so you've done a great job with that. And it's helped the city of Birmingham. It spawned, honestly, consumer brands like us, Two Maids and a Mop and Team Zebra now. The success of franchise organizations here in Birmingham has allowed other franchise brands to think they can do it as well. So congratulations on a life full of purpose.
Thank you.
It's one that, a lot of people want, you've lived the American dream, this I'm going to use a cleaning term here, when you get your hands dirty and sometimes, you don't really like doing that. You've done all those things, you've enjoyed it, you've embraced it, and it's allowed you to have great success. You're a true American success story. So congratulations on all that. And I'd love for people to have a chance to reach out to you and contact you at any time. So if there's any way you'd like to provide those contact informations to our audience, feel free to do that.
Yeah, I will be honest. I'm not. And I want to, if you got a second, I want to talk about the franchise part. Is that so? During the time of Taziki's, I created another brand here in town called Baja Burger. So I had a little burger joint that I created, and now it's owned by Eric and Greg Finney, the great brothers who are running it. And now I'm creating a smaller brand of Taziki's right now. And but you said something is that while we have 9 stores actually getting ready to open another one in the next 2 or 3 months and outside of Birmingham here in town. Other big brands see this and they're saying, if this cat can do 9 or 10 stores in a Birmingham market, I know it's going to be successful. So to me, it is a compliment. It's also like, hey, this is my turf. I own this, and I don't own the town, but so there's a part that's good and bad is that, yes, I love competition. I love competition, but I don't want too much competition. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So it can be a double-edged sword, I guess you'd say.
It's been a great community to build a business and raise a family, and
it sure has.
The opportunities that I've had to reach out to other entrepreneurs like yourself has been inspiring. People think of Wall Street and they think of Silicon Valley. Heck, here in the South, they think of Atlanta, as sort of this place where everything happens and, people make a bunch of money. I've seen it happen right here in Birmingham, Alabama. And I know that there's other people out there that are going to follow in our footsteps and create their own businesses and brands as well. And it's hopefully we're part of that inspiration, if nothing else. So Keith, would love for people to reach out to you and connect and engage with you. So what can they do to talk to you?
So I'm kind of old school. I don't have a social media post. I don't tweet or Twitter or don't Facebook. I don't. Email me and I'll hit you back. Or I really don't know.
Well, how about this? How about they just go eat some
me at a
food?
store? Yeah, you will catch me at a store. I am in a store just about every single day. But email is the best way. And I think if we have a submission page, and typically our marketing girls, they do the Taziki's Facebook page. So if there is a way, I mean, that's how people get in touch with me. They say, Keith, we're looking to, because we do a lot of stuff with the communities, and this is how they get to me. But I don't know. I don't want people to know when I'm fishing, when I'm playing golf.
I hear you. Well, listen, I said this once, but I really am impressed by your story. Congratulations. I believe that success is not because of money or boats. I know I made a joke about that. Success is based on purpose. If you have purpose in your life, you're going to be happy, whether that's making money or whether it's working for someone, whether it's volunteering. If you have purpose in your life, you're going to be happy, and you've lived already a life of purpose. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. And same to you. Congratulations.
Thank you. So thanks again for your time today, Keith, and hopefully we get to talk again down the road.
Yep. Look forward to it.